G'day guys, welcome back to Supercoach with DR and welcome to the Round 7 stock market video. Hope you're having a cracking week so far. I really apologise for the late upload this week. Unfortunately, I had my car broken into yesterday and had my laptop stolen, so don't actually have a computer at the moment. Thank you very much to my beautiful neighbour Denise for allowing me to use her computer tonight. I really do appreciate that. Massive shout out. She's such a wonderful neighbour and lets me borrow the lawnmower and all this sort of business. So thank you very much, niece. Much appreciated. Luckily, I didn't have my mic there or my camera there. All that was on my desk here at home. So I've still got that. So look on the bright side of things and hopefully I'll find a way to save up for another one soon. But yeah, just unfortunate luck there. But I need to get this out. It's a commitment that I make every week. Now, it's currently 4:15 at the time of recording. I've tried my best to smash out these slides. I've lost all my templates as well on the computer, so luckily I did find some of the icons on an old USB, so I was able to use those, but had to redo all the templates and all that sort of stuff, which took a little bit of time, but I'm going to do my best to smash this out. In good news, I did print out most of my notes and had them on my desk, but some, I don't know what River's done with them. So basically, I've got maybe half of the slides where I can actually go off some of my notes and stats and stuff that I wrote down over the weekend. But with the other slides, I'm pretty much just going to have to go bang. No notes here. It's just quickly off the top of the dome, maybe a yes or no type scenario. But again, I really do apologise to the whole community. I do feel terrible about this because I know that I get so many lovely messages each week saying that, you know, that the stock market video helps me so much with my trades. And I'm not saying this to try to blow my head up or anything like that, but I'm really sorry. And I hope it gets out before the start of tonight's game. But I'm saying too much in the intro. We need to get into it, guys. So, hope you have an awesome week. Let's get into it. You know where we start, the 500k plus defenders. Let's see who's at the top list this week. At the top list this week, we have former number one pick, Andy McGrath. Now, I've been doing the stockies for a while now, and I can't remember the last time I saw Andy McGrath right up there at the top of any list. 517,800 with a really nice three-rounder of 114, break even of 54. He's looking pretty nice at the moment, looking to rise around 25k if he can hit a projected score of 110. Keeping in mind that he's fall below his three-round average. Now, for me, he's a real pod. On fire at the moment. When you compare those averages to the other blokes here, you've got your Dacos, your Yo, and your Houston, who I think are really on another level in that next tier up from Andy McGrath. So at 517,800, I would be leaving him for now, and I'd most likely be going with one of the blokes that I've got an 8-ball symbol next to. That obviously signifies the fact that I think they will be a top 8 averaging defender, and they're really hard to predict at this stage, but they're just my personal prediction, so please take these obviously with a grain of salt. But Nick Dacos I've got as a must-have and a buy now. He's super value if you're someone that either didn't start him or you did start him, trade him out, and you're looking to trade him back in. I think you need to have him in your side. He is a must-have in my opinion. I assume most people that are watching this video probably already own him though. Liam Duggan, I suppose similar to Andy McGrath, very similar price. The three-rounder isn't close to Andy's at the moment, but he's looking to have a projected score of 119. Not really sure how they got to that, but if that's the case, he'll rise 16 grand. It's a pod pass for me. I just think there are better and safer options. And we'll look at another bloke in a couple of slides' time who I'd much rather over Liam Duggan anyway. Nick Martin, great selection, but the issue here is that you're not getting ultra value. You're almost paying 580,000 here. He's in super form. I think he's a real safe as houses type pick. Got the DPP there as well. You can reverse him into your midfield and keep swinging between your Klausies or your Graham type picks, your Roberts. So many really decent selections at the moment, either rookie priced or looking like these premiums like your Yo Martin and Dacos that do have that status to swing, so that can come in really handy. But Nick Martin, I think he's a perfect buy now, but you're not really getting ultra value. Elliot Yo, now there's this really hurts because I had the chance to bring him in 3 weeks ago, and I was so staunch in my approach just to anti-pot him because of his history of durability, but that has really hurt me. And people that started him have such a massive leg up. I must admit, I don't know if I'd say this, but I was tempted to start Yo, but the issue would be that I would have felt really embarrassed as a content creator if things didn't go well with him, because I would have felt like it was so obvious, mate. Why would you go with Yo when you know what his body's been like? But it just hasn't panned out that way, so I didn't have the courage to go there. But for anyone that did, kudos to you. He's absolutely on fire. And you'd have to say, if his body stays right, he's a top 3, at worst top 4 defender for us this year. James Sicily, yeah, the opposite to Yo at the moment. I just don't like the look of him. I've got the binocular symbol there. We never write someone like a Sicily off. He's someone that I was looking to start with before news came through that potentially a bit of a change in role and different personnel back there. Blank, obviously, that injury to him was huge in the end. I think that really has affected Sicily's ability to score. So even at 533, it looks like an absolute bargain for Sis, but really it's not with what he's been producing. So if he starts to go off tap, maybe I'll jump on board then. Dan Houston, yeah, he's been a rocket this year. Super boot, the symbol's been there most weeks. Also got the 8 ball. I think he's a clear 8 ball, if not a clear 6 ball at the moment. Dan Houston had a really nice run to start off with at Adelaide Oval, and also has a pretty decent run the next 5-6 weeks as well. The showdown tonight, so I expect Dan Houston to score pretty well. He's the type of bloke that will bob up in really important times during a game, and that really helps with scaling. We've seen him win the game off his own boot before, so I really like the Dan Houston selection. What I don't like, however, is that price. Do you go Yo? Do you go Houston? Well, if you just want to look at form, then it's Yo. But given Yo's age and durability, I would be going Houston myself. But again, I've been riding off Yo all year, and I've just been wrong. He's a terrific pick in his own right, Elliot Yo. And Lockie Whitfield, 543,800 now. I've got the 8 ball symbol there. I think he's right on the cusp. And there's probably 3 to 4 blokes that I could have had the 8 ball symbol on over Lockie Whitfield, or equal to Whitfield, but he probably just ahead of a few for mine. But I do have the worried symbol there, because I mention all the time, he's a sort of bloke that will he'll roll his ankle when he steps on a pebble type thing. The most random injuries that you've ever heard of. I'll need to go back through the list one day, but just a bruised kidney or a something, severed finger or a something. I'm making half these things up probably, but yeah, it's weird, but those sort of things just worry me, and I think it'd just be a bit of a stressful pick to own. But in saying that, he's back to his old role. We know what talent this bloke possesses. When he's on, he's really on. Elite years of the football as well. So if you're a Lockie Whitfield fan, you can go for it. He's more of a pod selection as compared to some of the bigger names here. So if Lockie floats your boat, I certainly won't talk you out of it. Lizard has a really nice 3-round average. Whenever I'm looking to do research on this man, I can never find him because I dead set always search up Lizard. What I do like about this man is his consistency with his scoring. He's gone above 90 in every game this season except one, and that was an 86, which is far from a disaster. The main issue I see with the Blakey pick is the fact that I think he's the next tier down from the top 6 to 8. So at 557,000, it's a little bit too pricey for me, even with that lovely 3-round average. Without meaning to offend the man, Jack Sinclair, he's been a pretty mediocre pick. Scores of 78, 89, a nice 124, another 89, 73, and then up to 113 last week. He's just not looking like a top 8 pick for me. But in saying that, from rounds 16 to 24, he plays every game at Marvel bar one, which makes him a possible trade-in if you need a defender after the buys. Hayden Young, he's one you can wait on with that break-even of 130 plus. 3-round average isn't too crash hot. I am definitely planning on bringing in Tom Stewart in 2 weeks' time. If he averages 100 over the next 2 weeks, he'll be priced at just above 500k, which could be one of the best defensive buys this season. There's no need to jump on now. Just see how he travels against Melbourne and Port. And if you like what you see, jump all over him in round 10. He'll be a really nice way to round out my defence anyway, and I'm 100% looking to trade him in. He seems to have lost a little bit of his ceiling, but I'm still really confident he's a top 10 defender. And look, still a big shout, I think, anyway, for top 6. Both Harry Sheasley and Ryan look like a lock, don't they, really, to finish in the top few defensive averages this year? I'm hoping Shees doesn't have to spend too much time in the forward line or in that midfield because he's a much better scorer when playing down back. Clarko is a little bit hard to trust at the moment. He seems to be playing around with players' roles. We've seen Comben move forward for half a game. Powell lose his CBAs all of a sudden. So it is a slight concern when it comes to North Melbourne players, but I'm still really confident on Shees. And even if he does play a little bit more midfield time, hopefully that won't be the worst thing in the world. And Luke Ryan, well, his break-even is now at 165 after a couple of quieter games, and he could potentially be available for under 600k very soon if we don't see a 140-plus type score in the very near future. And I better mention that I'm not worried with his form during the last couple. His position is locked down. We know what his role is from week to week, and I'm really sure he'll get closer to his average this week. So I did have one person send me through a DM asking if they should trade Luke Ryan. Please do not do that. Keep him in your side. He'll be one of your elite defenders this year. On to the defenders, 250 to 500k, and at the top of this week is Bailey Dale. I spoke a lot about him last week, but he was able to back up his absolute monster with another really decent score of a 132. I was so close to trading him in last week, but it was good to see that 175 may not have been just out of the blue. And I'm not saying he's going to be scoring these massive monsters each week, but a 132 against the Dockers from 30 touches, 23 of those kicks, 9 marks, 3 tackles, and the 2 snags is pretty nice. Now, I don't think it's anywhere near sustainable for Dale to kick 2 sausage rolls per game, but I do think that he could average 25 plus disposals, which should allow him to get to a triple figure average, particularly with that high kick to handball ratio. One of my main concerns is the fact that Bevo will likely switch the magnets around again, with Libba coming back into the side. Ed Richards will likely move back again, and the big question is how much will he affect Dale? I've tried to look at the numbers, and it doesn't seem like he does too much. Even if he doesn't turn out to be a keeper, you could flip him to, say, a Tom Stewart as a worst-case scenario in, say, a couple of weeks. It isn't ideal, but going up 36k last week, he now has a break-even of negative 45. If we skip the projected score in the slide and up that to a 105 over the next 2 weeks, he should make around 86k and then hover at that price. I think out of all the players you see on this screen, he's got the best chance of producing close to a top 10 average from here. But remember who he's coached by. I could see a world where if his form drops off, Bevo does Bevo things and Bevo's him. If you can get away with picking up a decent D6 at this price, you could really, really go well in other areas. It depends on A, how much you think Dale will average. B, do you gain more of an advantage with the 150 odd K that you could save, just say on not going a Shees or not going a Ryan pick? It seems to be, look, there's people really on either side of the fence with this one. Like, you either really hate it or you're really, really interested in it. So whatever you decide to do, if you are someone that's interested, this is the last week you can bring him in. You can obviously bring him in the next week, but that value just won't be there. If you're a Dale fan, this is without doubt the week. Jace Burgoyne's one that most of us missed. He's got a really interesting split when you look at his scores. Was sub-effect at the start, scored 57, 32, 29 in his first 3 games, and then flicked the switch, up those scores to 93, 88, and a 117 last week. His son of a gun looks to have a really bright future though in his own right. I'm loving owning him in a keeper draft, but remember what happened when people traded in the Sharp and the Dempsey types after their first price rises? It just didn't work out. A very different case here with the price, etc., but you get the drift of what I'm saying. I think the ship has sailed here for mine. Raptor kept on to Howes. What a score of 87. That was fantastic on field for me. Really reset that break even and should get to 300k quite easily. A certain hold, but not a buy. Oh, the next bloke has me frustrated given the fact I traded him out. In his first 6 weeks, Colton McKercher had a total of 5 kick-ins. Then we started to see a shift in his role, playing more of a midfield role, attended 50 plus CBAs in round 4. But just last week, and on top of that, we had the injury, but just last week, he had a ridiculous 12 kick-ins. What a bonus that is. Fisher is suddenly the sub, and the coach looks like he's returning to that lucrative defensive role at North. Well done if you hold. You took the gamble that that mid-roll wouldn't continue and that he could reset his cash gene quick enough, and you were correct, so kudos to you. An on-field option, either down, back, or in your mids, depending on how deep you're batting there. Sam Closey, under a slight injury cloud and may be due for a rest, but even if he does get rested or managed for some reason, he's an absolute hold for now. I'm looking to loop him this week if I can, but what a rookie he has been. Already made over 170k for us, and that should tick above the 200k mark very soon. Matty Roberts, again, been a fantastic starting selection for us this year. So far, he's made us over 250k and delivered us on-field scores of 76, 69, 94, 98, 80, 117, and another solid 80 last week. Now, for me, given his consistent scoring, job security, DPP status, I see him as the perfect D7, M9 cover for the rest of the year. The main issue is that, look, in order to get to these midfield Uber type premiums, you may need to cash in a Roberts type to make the move. If he hits his projected score of 94 this week, he'll rise over 25k, and then his break even will rise to about 75 in round 9. Now, some may say that's the perfect time to trade him up to, say, Petrucca, and it's probably something I may need to consider myself, as much as I'd really love to keep on to this man. Many traded Massimo this week. I still think he's trying fine to trade this week, but there's still some meat on the bone, and if he's selected in the side, I have zero problems with people holding. Another concern is with the return of some regular starters from 2023 who have been out due to injury. Mass may be pushed back in the pecking order a bit, but team dependent with that. You could lose him as a loop if he doesn't play. Yeah, up to you with Mass. Jack Bowes, he's definitely a pod pick, but he has been pretty solid in the last month. An up and down CBA rate from week to week with 19, 63, and then a season high 76%. Then all the way down to 6% and 35% last week. The week before, with that 6%, he did spend some time down back, had a couple of kick-ins. I must admit, he's a pick that's flown under my radar. Scores of 90, 104, 124, and 80 in the last month are decent, and he has quietly made a profit of over 100k. Congratulations if you are one of the 1.7% of coaches that currently own him. Personally, I couldn't go there myself, but if you like a lone wolf move, he's someone you could consider, but I prefer the Bailey Dale pick. Tom Brown, Red DeCal, we can move him on now. Maxi Holmes, he's a pod in decent form, another Geelong man, and a player I've heard the Wallen Footy Club boys are pretty keen on. Shout out to you fellas. His scoring is very similar to the Lizards in that his ceiling isn't massive, but his floor is really nice and consistent. 112, 95, 84, 97, 87, 98, and 109. That really does highlight that consistency, but again, those scores just probably don't compete with those top-notch defenders. He's a tier below, but if you see upside, you could certainly go there. A really exciting player to watch, speed to burn, and I really love players that take the game on, but for me, he's probably too much of a risky pick, and as I mentioned, just that tier down for mine. And Zach Williams, good to see he was fit to play last week, gave us a decent score. We made some extra pocket money, which was nice. The break-even is in red, although he's quite capable of scoring an 80, so it's up to you whether or not you want to trade or not. I'd be in the camp of moving him on now, or even holding for the next two and then upgrading to a Tom Stewart. Yeah, muck around with your team and see what the Williams money can do for you. Onto the defenders under 250k, and not a lot to see here in regards to trade-in options. You've got Lee Khalil, who's the obvious one at the top, looking to rise over 40k this week if he can go around to 50. The issue here is probably the job security. With Sam Taylor coming back, they've got a really set defensive unit there at the Giants, so I would be pretty surprised if he kept his spot. It's not as if he hasn't been playing well and deserves that spot, but let's be honest, when Sam Taylor is fit and available, he's the best key defender in the comp. So that's the concern with Lee Khalil, just that job security. So probably a pass for me. Woden's certainly a pod type pick, but with a 3-rounder of 26, you probably just don't look to go there. Graham was absolutely fantastic last week. Had him on field, 247,500 with a negative break-even of 6. Still plenty of meat on the bone here. And I've just realised that I've got the sub there. He should not have a sub pick, and he's not a pod pick. So I've absolutely butchered the note section there for Will. An oversight for me. Apologies for that one. Alex Sexton is a really interesting one. I've got the note section right there because you've got the omission and the chop symbol. However, I still think there's a chance. I really do. Now, the reason for this is the fact that Rory Atkins was brought back into the side last week and did absolutely nothing. Sexton had a nice game in the VFL, 30 plus disposals, and I believe the week before he was actually held back from the VFL. He's been on the emergency list, so I just think he's so close. I'd be so frustrated if I trade him out and then the week after he got himself a game. And negative break even of 5, just 1 or 2 more, I'll make a little bit more money and then I'm happy to move him on. But at this stage, it's just so frustrating. I don't want to do it. Angus Hasty. Look at the price there, 107,100. The break even is 34 and it's in red, so that says that all. An absolute sub pass for me. And Joshy Draper, unfortunately, is injured. I don't know what the time frame is there, but he hasn't been an overly successful rookie, 184,200. But the break even is in green. But if you look at that 3-rounder, again, injury affected, things just don't look fantastic. So for me, I think that, yeah, they just keep him there and let him sit there and do not much for a while, or say to yourself, look, 184,000, some still have Reed and Marty Hoare, at least I've made a little bit, let's just cash him in. On to the midfielders, 500k plus, and apologies guys, this was one of these slides that I need to quickly get through because I've lost all my notes, there was no audio for it, so let's do this really quickly in a nutshell. We've got Jordan Dawson up the top there. I think if you've got faith in him, he's an absolute buy now. You look at that 3-rounder all the way up to a 120, keeping in mind that did include a huge score the week before, but came out against North and really continued on with that good form. Looking like he's now found a little bit more confidence. I'm confident enough on his role in the team as well. So for me, Jordan Dawson is a buy now. Not looking like one of the absolute uber elite, but does present value and could give you, say, a 110 to 115 type average. Paddy Cripps is certainly a pod, a lone wolf move. I'm not looking to go there myself, though. LDU is one that you get if you haven't got much money in the bank, to be quite honest. 518,400. The 3-rounder is finally in triple figures, which is nice, a low break even there, but haven't really seen a ceiling game from him in a little while. That's probably what I'm looking for in order to at least get him properly on my watch list. Tommy Green, I think, is an absolute buy now. 579,500 for this man with a break-even of 91 is the bargain of the year. I wouldn't go that far, bargain of the year, but I'm a massive advocate for trading in Tom Green this week if you don't have him. We've seen those huge ceiling scores at the start of the year. Then he tapered off a little bit. People were thinking, uh-oh, there's something wrong with this bloke. Oh, maybe he's not going to be right up there. But then last week, he delivered another massive score for owners who kept the faith. There's a few that actually traded him out, but I say bring him in if you don't have him and just enjoy the ride with Tom Green. Caleb Sarong is an absolute uber elite, and I'm looking to bring him in this week. Still provides excellent value, and it sounds silly when you see him at 621,000, but I truly believe that is still good value for him. A break even of 98, and he should definitely look to go past that 122. Playing the Tigers, and we all know how opposition midfields have been scoring on them. A captaincy option if, say, the Max Gawn VC doesn't come up for you. So I am a huge fan of Caleb Sarong. Was very close to starting him this year, and I'll be really happy to be able to bring him into my side this week. Tuki Miller, I have him as probably a tier below Caleb Sarong, and even probably a Tom Green type, but at 591,700, you could say that there's still some value there after his big monster last week. Now, 3-rounder is 123. If you look at that compared to the other players on this list, there's only 2 down the bottom with Matt Rowell and Sam Walsh who are upping that at the moment. So if you want to go Took and you're a fan of the trademark, then feel free to bring him in. Just be careful about how many Gold Coast, geez, I'm butchering this one trying to get through quickly, Gold Coast midfielders you have. Yeah, you got Rowell, you got Anderson. You think about these rookies. Most of us have a Sam Flanders in our forward line. Some may be still running with him in your midfield. So just keep in mind that the buys will be coming up quickly before we know it, and you don't want to overinvest in a particular round. Georgia Hewitt, I think, could be on the chopping block. Look, he's still scoring okay. Look, a bit of a down one last week, but he's certainly not going to be one of those uber elites. And if you compare him to basically any other name on this list, he is a tier below all of these guys for me. Matt Rao is, well, 654,300. 3 round of 132. You can't fault this man. And Jonathan and I were trying to rate, your Zeret types, your Sarong with Rows. And one thing that we both agreed with on Matt Rao was the fact that he's got a really nice floor. And his floor is almost guaranteed because of 2 reasons. The first reason is that high tackle count. He's an absolute tackling beast. And the second thing is his contested possession count. We know that he is a contested beast as well. So those two things married up and put together really do allow for a super high floor. And then when you add on the fact that he is now upping that disposal average, and particularly from the last couple of years, that is now allowing that Supercoach score to really get to those elite level numbers. So has really added to his game, Matt Rao. I'm really stoked for the bloke because he is a super player, real student of the game, works so hard, has been really cut down by injury so far in his young career, but really good to see him really hitting his prime, and he's become an elite midfielder of the competition. Got a decent draw as well, so if you've got the money, you could go there, but it is really hard paying up for someone like a Matt Rao when you've got, say, Tom Green at 579,500. Have I even included the Bont this week? Oh, it might be on the other slide. I hope he is. And Sam Walsh, well, I traded him in last week. I've still got concerns about his back, but 608,800 coming up against the Pies this week. Could be a decent VC option. I was spewing, though, at the start of the game. You see O'Connor go straight to him and go, oh, my goodness, why? As soon as I trade this man in. But, look, if he stays fit, I think he's probably top 8 to 10 mids at this stage. We'll now go on to the next slide, and I do have the Bont there, which is good. Matty Crouch, look, he's not going to be a keeper for the year, so whenever you feel the time is right to move him on, you can. But for me, it should be just before his buy. Keep on to him, no reason to trade him out at all. Bont is the other really obvious Uber buy now for me. Now, there have been some question marks over Bont in regards to role at times. Obviously, Bevo, I'm not going to talk about Bevo again. We do this every week, but the other issue for me is that he does look like he's playing a little bit sore and not really giving us those big captaincy scores that we're after. In saying that, though, even playing through injury, this bloke can hurt you. I think that at 614,000, you can't pass this up if you don't own him. Last year, didn't get below 650k, only went below 100 once. I know that 2024 is a different year, but he's the same bloke. Maybe the body's not feeling as good, but you've just got to have this guy on your side, and I think this is the week to do it. Look, you probably could wait with that 124, but he's the type of player that can go 160 quite easily. Errol, I'm a little bit worried about his floor this year. We've seen a couple of ceiling type games, not huge ceiling like we know that he's got in him, so he's probably a bit of a pod pass for mine, but I will keep him on my watch list. Same as Josh Dunkley, just something doesn't seem overly right there. Everything just isn't clicking for Dunks in 2024. It is for Zach Merritt, though, and I tell you what, with his fixture, this will be probably the scariest non-own. If you've got the cash, 640,000, I still think that this is a really decent buy. That's why I've got the buy now there, because he's almost locked to give you a top 5 midfield average, and coupled with the fixture, there's so much to like about Zeret. I suppose the only thing compared to maybe a Raul or a Sarong is the fact that he's someone that could be moved out of the midfield from time to time. He's already mentioned that he's happy to let the next gen step in. He's obviously the captain and wants to do the best thing for the side. I think the best thing for the side is to keep him in there full time, but we'll see what happens there. In saying that, the risk is extremely minimal here, and I still think it's okay to pay up. But yeah, just make sure that if you do trade in a Merritt at that price, make sure it doesn't affect your future upgrade cadence. Noah Anderson, massive game from him. Look, who do you pick? Rao, Took, Anderson? It's up to you, but you probably can't go... Well, you definitely couldn't go more than 2. That would just kill you on that bye. I'm assuming everyone has Flanders, and if not, you should have Flanders. He should be your main priority by far in your forward line over any other one of the GC midfielders. Zachy Butters, he'll provide good value for non-owners, probably in a week or 2. I wouldn't look to go there now. 634,000 is still pretty decent, to be honest, for Zach Butters. But when you've got other guys on the previous slide offering break-evens very much in the green, I just think that he's one that you can put off and maybe target a little bit later on. Connor Rozee, yeah, what's going to happen with Rozee? Will he play a little bit more forward this week? He's been named to play. I believe that Kenny said he's going to get up. Is he going to be a late out? Look, I'm really not sure with Connor Rozee. It's an awkward one if you're an owner because he is a pod pick. It's not like he's 30-40% owned. So, look, I'd still be holding this pick. But look, it's really up to you. Track's a really interesting one. Now, we'll talk about him next week because we're not going to look to go there with a break-even of 188. So let's leave that discussion for now. We'll park that one. And then next week, we'll take a really deep dive into the numbers. And Jack Steele, news has come through that he wasn't training with the main group during the week. Other people have said, well, that's because they've had a longer break. I think it's 8 days. So that's allowed them, when I say them, it's Steele and Rowan Marshall, to have a bit of an extended break. So, look, I'm not too sure with Jack Steele. I'm super worried. He screwed me last year. So, if you want to get out of this pick, I do not blame you. But you got to do it this week. Or could you just maybe take a hit? The hit's probably too big to take, isn't it, just to get data against North? He's got such a good history against North, and even on one leg, he could give you a decent one. So, look, I'm loath to do it, but I think I'm going to hold. I could really regret this decision, but we know that a fit Jack Steele has top 5 midfield potential. But with this knee issue, I've got him right outside of that, and I just think he's going to be a frustrating pick. So, yeah, get out for your mental health, but if you're in for the ride, I'm there with you, and we can cry on each other's shoulders. On to the midfielders, 250 to 500k, and at the top we have Thompson Dow, played a ripping game on the weekend. He punched out his best score with a 110 from 23 touches, almost half of those contested, also laid the 8 tackles. But for me, this is a bit of a trap pick. I understand the Richmond midfield is in pretty bad shape at the moment, and Dow does have the opportunity to shine, but at the price, given the fact he's a midfielder only, I just don't see why you'd go there. Poor old Jared Lyons, he struggled to the game after starting off the season really well, Supercoach-wise. He did come back for a sub game, made a little bit of coin, but given the fact his break-even now sits at 47, it's time to move him on, unless he's named in the 22 this week and you're confident he's going to get a full game. Jacob Ware, been a good pod rookie for those that went there, made close to 150k profit, done his job well, fine to move on, but not a must trade out. Darcy Parish, here's an interesting one. Well, what do we call him? The Anzac Day specialist. Found form again on his favourite day of the year. But here we go. 80, 72, 61, 84, and that 125 last week. There he scores to date, and let's be honest, they are not premium numbers, and that's certainly reflected in his price. It would take a brave man or woman to go there, but if somehow he finds his best form again, this could be one of the best buys of the season. When this man is on, his ceiling is up there with the best in the game. Historically, an absolute disposal pig, but that count has lowered drastically this year. We all know the major knock on him, and that's his lack of damage with football in hand. Also has a history of soft tissue injuries, and that married up with the fact that he's only scored over 100 once this year says to me the risk is too high, even at the bargain price. But if you're interested, I think that this is the week to buy due to his extremely friendly fixture in the upcoming weeks. He could feast on the West Coast Eagles, and that break-even could start to plummet, and all of a sudden people would start to become more interested. So you could be a little bit ahead of the crowd if you do go him this week, but in saying that, the crowd won't be a big one when it comes to lining up to select Darcy Parish. Jeremy Sharp, he's absolutely on the chopping block for me this week. But again, what a starting pick he's been. After his big score of 120 plus a few weeks ago, I did mention in the next stock market video the week after that I thought the ship had already sailed. If you did bring him in late, I see this as a bit of a failed trade-in. Another big 100-plus score doesn't seem likely anytime soon. So if I was an owner, he would be one of my highest trade-out priorities. Riley Bonner is another player who I think is ready to cull. 88, 72, 81, and only a 66 against his old team last week says that his price is probably where it's meant to be and a great avenue now to an uber premium. Sharp plus Bonner basically gets you a Tom Green, Jake Rogers combo, which is really hard to look past for mine. Horn Francis just seems like a bit of a nothing pick. Hasn't hit the ton for the last 3 weeks. Nowhere near a midfield keeper. A bloke I was never really keen on myself. Probably not the biggest headache in your team, but one you need to view as a stepping stone unless he somehow attains 4 DPP in the next round of changes. And I still cannot believe, I say it every week, but I still cannot believe Clary is sitting below 470k, a massive fall from grace, but it's just good to see him back enjoying his football. And who knows, I see a world where he comes good again this season. In 7 games, though, he's only gone over 93 times, and his best score is a 105. Basically repeat myself every week with this pick, but as usual, just keep the great man on your watch list. On to the midfielders under 250k. We've got one name we'll take a real close look at here. The other two came to Califf and Jack Carroll. Jack Carroll is obviously a trade-out option. Break even, very much in the red. Sub-risk, certainly ready to chop. Probably should have already chopped him, to be honest. And Kane McAuliffe, look, if he gets a game, we could look to go there, but job security is going to be a major issue for me going forward. He should have had the opportunity to come into the side, I believe anyway, with the injuries that Richmond are currently facing in their midfield. So the fact that he wasn't recalled, it does give me some concerns. And even if he is, will he be the sub? Will he be subbed out? Will he be dropped the week after? I just don't know with Kane McAuliffe, so one that I'd just skip for now. But the man we need to talk about is Jake Rogers. It's amazing how someone's prospects can change in just the 1 week. It looked like we'd be passing on him after his score of 28 in his first game, but he came out and went bang against the Eagles with a 98 from 22 touches, 3 tackles, and a goal. What really impressed Janeth, he was talking about this on the potty, was his professionalism and the fact that he was really annoyed with himself whenever he made a mistake, which shows that he's got high standards, that he does step for himself. He did lots of extra training with the other academy boys in the team, which should put him in good stead. My main issue is his role and the fact that last week he was playing against West Coast. He could easily go back to that lowly score like he did against the Swans with that 28, who are obviously a much tougher opponent. He comes up in the next month against Brisbane, North, which is nice, but then Carlton, Geelong. So arguably only the one really friendly matchup. The good thing is that low score drop out and that 98 will be in his price cycle for the next 2 rises. But the most important game is this week. That will really dictate his short-term cash gen. You are paying up a little bit more. He hasn't gone up yet, but he's obviously got an elevated price at just under 150k. But Dimmer loves him. He's displayed a decent ceiling already, albeit with what seems to be a low floor. So I wouldn't say that Jake Rogers is an absolute must-trade-in option this week. There's a bloke that I believe is a must-trade-in option at about 10k more, who we'll get to very, very soon. But at the same time, I think he does look to be a really solid selection, but you would be hoping that he goes much closer to that 98 than the 28. So feel free to bring in Jake Rogers. He's an absolute buy now, particularly if you're looking for a cheap mid. On to the big boys in the ruck, and there is a lot to talk about this week. I'll start off by saying Max Gawn is an absolute non-negotiable must-have sooner rather than later. He's killing non-owners and punishing those who don't have him in their captaincy loophole. In saying that, I don't think he is the biggest must-have ruck selection this week. That tag goes to Mr. Jordan Sweet. On the Swordplay potty, Jonathan and I discussed the sweet and sour ruck strategy. We went into a real deep dive on Jordan Sweet's numbers and also discussed the Grundy, Marshall, Naismith and English selections. So what I might do is insert that discussion now. If you've already tuned into the Swordplay podcast, then you may just want to skip this little bit. But if you didn't take any notes, it may be definitely worth the watch again. We discussed whether or not it's best to select Sweet at R2 or R3 and also reveal some sneaky options using some DPP. All right, mate. So anything else that you really wanted to, I suppose, bookmark or end the rookie discussion for this week, brother?
I think it's a good segue to talking about Jordan Sweet and what to do with Jordan Sweet, because there's so many different scenarios.
The sweet and sour. Sweet and sour. Now, we've got Sweetie there, and
Oh,
you may
goodness.
notice that just sitting on Rowan's shoulder there is a very, very angry little character. We can see the eyebrows there, frowning. He's not happy with
DR's
Rowan
best
Marshall.
work. That's your best work.
Well, my brother touched on it before in his round review, but it just hasn't been a good time if you invested in Rowan
Jeez.
Marshall in the last couple of weeks. But
Right.
let's be honest, mate, all the talk this week when it comes to the
Mm.
rookies, and we did touch on him before, is Jordan Sweet. So 158,700 with a break even of minus 113, if you don't mind, 130 plus score last week against your man Rowan. Now, keeping in mind that Rowan was playing on one leg, we were lucky not to get him at -2. So soldiered on, at least played out most
Yep.
of the game. So shout out to you and well done, Rowan, for actually
Yep.
doing that, mate,
Thank you,
in
Rowan.
under a lot of duress. So
Yep.
you can be angry at Rowan owners, but you can look at it from a different
He got
point of
it.
view.
He did
Hey,
persevere through. Yeah.
yeah, he could have called it quits and left you with a -2.
Yeah.
So this is very easy to say as a non-owner, I know. We've also got Brody Grundy here, 555,300, the break even of 76, and Timmy English, 591,300 with a break even of 90. I could also probably add Lloyd Meek to
Yep,
this
that's a
discussion,
good one.
as well as Tristan Cherry.
Tristan Cherry. Yep.
Now,
Oh,
the big discussion or the big talking point for me, Janeth, is not whether or not you
Mhm.
get Jordan Sweet in. Now, I view Jordan Sweet as a must-have. I think his cash gen is going to
Yep.
be phenomenal. We've seen what's happened with Rob in the past. We've seen what's happened with Big Kizza as well. Plenty of examples of our R3s being able to make some good coin. However, does he necessarily have to be the R3? That is the big question. Now, I'm going to say straight out, mate, that I really like Jordan Sweet as an R2. The reason why I say that is that you look at his price there, it's 158,700. I don't think there are going to be too many blokes around this price in your back line, mids, or forwards that can potentially give you the average that Jordan Sweet can. Now, this is all your own projections. This is all your own gut feel. But I'm going to give him a 95. So I think he could even push a three-digit average here, but I'm going to say 95. Again, you may completely disagree. Whoever's listening or watching, you can make your own projections and predictions here. I would ask anyone if they think there's going to be a rookie coming up on the horizon, or apart from your obvious ones that have already played since the start, your Roberts Reed types, who I'm not even including in this conversation, is there anyone that's going to produce a score like that on field for you? I say no. I then look at the two blokes to the right there, Rowan Marshall and Brody Grundy. Now, very different break evens, pretty different situations here. But if I look at Rowan Marshall there, 545,100, a break even of 198. We know that he's sore. We can go back to even the fixture run that they had, which I think was absolutely ridiculous. And I really feel for St Kilda supporters. What was it? 3 odd games in 12,
Jeez,
13
yeah.
days. It was just ridiculous. Everything seems to be going against his pick at the moment. And I'm actually pretty concerned about Rowan Marshall. So I'm going to say straight out that if I was in a position where you had, let's just say everyone's got Max Gawn, Rowan Marshall, and someone like Livingston, which I think is a pretty popular combo. If you do have Marshall Livo there at R3, I would be trading Rowan Marshall down to Jordan Sweet. I would not be worrying about getting Jordan Sweet at R3 because I think, and I'm not talking long term here, but let's just say that Rowan is carrying something. And who knows if he plays, they might even rest him. I'm not too sure. But I reckon for the next month, my call is that Jordan Sweet averages more than Rowan Marshall. I'm not
Yeah.
saying this season long, but for the next month, that is my call. And if you can get rid of Rowan, get Jordan Sweet in, and then invest somewhere else, we've got so many great bargains in the midfield. Your Greens, your Bonts, like take your pick. Sarong, I think, is still at a really friendly price. Dawson still. Take your pick if you're looking for a midfielder. 545,000 down to 158. That gives you some good cash. And I understand you're going from a keeper down to a rookie, but it also allows you to get out of the pick and then reassess your ruck options and potentially go back to someone like a Tim English. So that's the way that I feel with Rowan Marshall. Brodie Grundy, do you know what? I'm going to make a really bold call and say that I'd almost do the same thing and trade him out. Brodie Grundy has been an absolute roller coaster this year. You will be kicking yourself when he gives you 140 plus, but you'll be patting yourself on the back when he goes to 65 to a 75 and Sweetie's going at least your 90 plus. So I would actually be trading out Brodie Grundy as well. Even though he's got more cash to make, I would be trading Grundy out and getting Sweet on field in place of Grundy. Am I against Grundy owners getting Sweet at R3? No, absolutely go for it. But I just think that you can invest that money somewhere else, because I don't believe that the difference in average between Sweet and Brodie Grundy is, let's round it to 400K. I think you can use that 400K.
You get a Tom Green in.
Exactly right. And it's a Tom Green over a Wilson. Now, I know Wilson's been going all right, but whoever on field. That is huge.
Basically, what you're saying, DR, for those that aren't following, Tom Green and Jordan Sweet versus Brodie Grundy and Darcy Wilson.
The combo. Yeah, the scoring combo.
So you're not looking in isolation Sweet versus Grundy, because even if Sweet goes at exactly what Grundy goes, you're banking on whoever you use that money for, that 400K, is going to score more than Darcy Wilson or whoever you're comparing them with. And so you're looking at it holistically in that way. You know what, DR? I've just done some digging. And so Ivan Soldo is still 4 to 5 weeks out in the injury report. So just note these down. So you got Adelaide at Adelaide. This is the next 5 games for Port Adelaide. Adelaide at Adelaide Oval, Geelong at GMHBA, Hawthorn at Adelaide Oval, North Melbourne at Blunston, Carlton at Adelaide Oval. And then they have the bye. And so we sort of see the timing that Soldo will probably come back in round 14 after the Port bye. So now let's talk about why really Jordan Sweet scored so well. So when you look at her face value, 11 disposals, 3 marks, 6 tackles, 5 contested possessions, you're not really thinking it's going to be a 136-point game.
Nah.
Not at all. Yeah. But there's a specific reason for this. So he had 36 hitouts. Now, when a hitout is sharked, that's -1. But for a hitout to advantage, you get 4 points. And so Jordan Sweet, so far this season, is averaging 10.5 hitouts to advantage per game. Now, note, he was subbed out in that first game as well. So, basically, he has so far this season, he gets 42 points from hitouts to advantage. Now, you may be saying, okay, it's a small sample size. His hit-out win percentage is 52.8%. So he wins more hitouts.
Soldo was in round 1. Soldo played in that first game with him as well, and he wasn't the pure ruck. He also taken into account.
That's a really thing. And do you know what's most impressive? Jordan Sweet so far has the highest hit-out to advantage percentage of any ruckman in the AFL, 36.8%. So that means that he has the highest percentage of hit-outs that goes to his followers. And something that's really helpful for that is having good followers that actually know where you're going to tap it to. And when you're tapping it down to Butters, Rosie, Horn, Francis, Wines, Drew, it makes it a bit easier.
Absolutely.
All right, but let's look at his opposition for the next 4 weeks. So I've told you it's Adelaide, Geelong, Hawthorn, North, Carlton.
Yep.
Adelaide. Riley O'Brien, 49.6% hit-out win percentage. So Jordan Sweet trumps that. And then he's got Geelong. Now, it's a lottery as who's going to be the ruckman. I'll give you both of them. So Reece Stanley. 37.3%. If it's not Reece Stanley, it's going to be Toby Conway, 41.8%. So even then, Jordan Sweet takes the cake there. Hawthorn. You'd assume it's going to be Lloyd Meek. 39.6%. Again, really good. North Melbourne, Tristan Sherry, probably the toughest matchup, maybe alongside this week, 43.8%.
Okay.
And then Carlton, probably the best matchup, because even though Mark Pittonet's a really good tap ruckman, he actually doesn't win generally a lot of hitouts. He gets them to his followers, to our followers, but he's got a 38.9% hitout percentage. So I think this Jordan Sweet at R2 strategy is really good. One other thing that Cohen Livingston owners can do this week, and I think this is what I'll be doing. Port Adelaide play on the Thursday night. You'll know the teams by then, so you can plan your moves. Put Jordan Sweet at R3. Make sure you have that purple box on Jordan Sweet with the
Yes,
emergency.
please.
And then, if Jordan Sweet, what's your line, D? I'm taking 85 and above. Anything 85 and above.
Oh, yeah, I would absolutely
Yeah?
take that with the other. Yeah, absolutely.
If Sweet scores 85, I already own Sweet, so I'm in a pretty fortunate position there. But what you would do is, if he scores 85, you move Livingston into your R2, so you're going to get Sweet on your field, and then you maneuver the rest of your team around moving out whoever your current Ruckman 2 is, whether it be Marshall, whether it be Grundy. And I think that we will have a better opportunity to pick up Tim English, knock on wood, this season, where Jordan Sweet gets the bye, he's maxed out, and you can get him on to Tim English either after the Bulldogs bye or at just before the Bulldogs bye, either or. What do you reckon?
Well, this is my question to you, mate, because this is the decision that I've had to make this week. And it's like I'm blessed, but it's frustrating at the same time. Oh, and then I'm going to talk about one more strategy, mate, if that's okay. But I had targeted Tim English for this week for the last few, I just thought, here we go. It's going to be Tim English all the way. Look at that price and break even for his potential capability at his starting price. This bloke started over 700K, keep in mind, mate. And with apart from that one really ordinary game, there's no major failures, right? So all roads were leading to me picking up Tim English this week. Is there a world where you think someone in my position could still go ahead and trade in both English and Jordan Sweet? Or do you think that, given the fact that we've already had that discussion about how well Sweet could potentially score compared to other rookies, do you think that you just abandon that idea for now? What's your quick take on that one, mate? Because I've abandoned it myself.
If you're trading in both, then you're going to have to bench Sweet.
Yes.
You wouldn't bench English.
No,
and so,
yeah.
And so basically you're making Livingston redundant in that instance, just straight up, because Sweets doesn't have the DPP. I don't know. I think if you're backing in Sweet this week, I remember last year not owning Briggs and having a number one ruckman that Sweet and Briggs are very different in their own right, because Sweet's not a tap. Briggs isn't a tap ruckman. He gets around the ground. He tackles really well.
Beast.
Sweet is more of that tap ruckman. He doesn't do much around the ground, but you can just see how much toweling up on the hitouts can do to a Supercoach score. So I think for you, DR, I know it's tough, and it could really bite us. But think, having a number one ruckman for 4 to 5 weeks, and they're going to be the number one ruckman. So it's not a case where Sweet is in the team because Soldo's in bad form. You know that the only reason Sweet won't be in the team is if he gets injured.
Absolutely.
And in that case, you're sort of willing to take the risk, I think. Hold off on English, and it may look bad. There may be weeks where English goes 140 and Sweet goes 90, but always keep in mind, has that 430K in this instance made up that 40 points? And I think that's the big thing that we need to be looking at in the big picture.
It is, mate. And the other quick thing that I just want to mention as well, and I'm in this position, I feel in a way that if you've got the combo of Gawn and English, Jordan Sweet is, in a way, I feel, and this may sound really silly because everyone wins because of his cash generation.
Yeah.
But I think you lose out a little bit because I'm in this situation currently where I've got Dogger at R2. So for me, it's a matter of see you later, Aaron Cadman, or whichever forward rookie, if you've got a Dempsey, whoever's ready to go, and simply a matter of let's strengthen the forward line and get Dogger down there. Then I've got a spare spot. Let's get Jordan Sweet in. You've still got Livingston there. Yeah. And then you can actually loop between Jackson and Jordan Sweet. Yeah. So let's just say he does play that early game, has a bit of a shocker for some reason. It's like, all right, well, let's get Dogger up there. So I feel that I'm really blessed in the fact that I haven't committed to an R2. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Those that are yet to commit to an R2, I feel this is really good, having Jordan Sweet available. And it makes it really awkward for those people that have already committed to an R2 and you're not willing to trade them out, because seeing someone like me getting hopefully
Yeah.
100 score per week and
Yeah.
seeing that
That's
your
it.
English, even if you got it, getting your 125, but having this guy on the bench, you're thinking, oh, geez, it just doesn't feel
It's
right.
you
So
still get the cash, and that's where I know
you do.
last year
Yeah.
I was in the
Yeah.
position where I had Marshall and English, and I'm like, I can't trade either of these out for Briggs. So I'm just gonna have Briggs rotting away on the bench making money. I just didn't do it because it just wasn't worth it. In this case, Sweet is a bit of a different proposition. We're too early in the season to sort of stinge with our money on the bench. You
Yeah.
take what's available. I guess the other thing, DR, just to mention is Jordan Sweet averaged 120 in the VFL last year, so it's got that scoring pedigree. Just the last thing I think to bookmark this is I know that some people, I know the great Abs, the Skodfather, he's got Sam Naismith. So those with Sam Naismith, what do you do there? Are you sort of in the position where you leave Naismith at R3 because you don't want to trade Naismith to Sweet because you're going to have to use another trade to get in a ruckman when you trade Sweet out. So do you leave Naismith at R3, get Sweet in at R2, and then let Sweet max out and then go straight up to that English? Or whoever it is when Sweet maxes out.
Probably. That's if you're projecting. So Naismith's job security is based on, you'd think, Bolter and Lynch at the moment. Do you think maybe a Samson Ryan could take his spot?
He played well in the VFL.
Well, all right, the question would be, how confident are you? You're not a Tiger supporter, I know that. How confident are you that he plays for the next 3 weeks, Naismith? Do you think it's a
Not
lot?
very.
Or not very?
I said it last week as well, mate, that when Naismith was named, I was pretty sure that he was going to be something to do to combat Max Gordon, which they didn't end up achieving.
Yeah.
So it may just be that he's
Luckily.
straight out. It may be
Yep.
that he has an extended stint, but Naismith's not a forward.
No,
Like,
he's a ruck.
Neither
He's a
is
ruck.
Nate.
Yeah.
Samson
But
Ryan is more of
that's
a
what I like about
forward than
Samson.
Naismith
Yeah.
or Nate is.
Yes, and that's why
So
I
it's
assumed
not-
actually that he'd get named over
Yeah.
Naismith, because they're more looking for that forward ruck relief,
Yeah.
given the fact that Nang's fit and well, how fit he is, I'm not sure, but he's available and playing at the moment. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that switch, mate. I don't think that Naismith set the world on fire.
That's it. So reading between the lines there, mate, Naismith may get dropped because if you were going to bring in a forward, you would have brought in Ryan. That's why I'm thinking that it was something to do with Max Gordon.
Good
This week,
thinking,
though,
mate.
you do play Sean Darcy and you play Luke Jackson. So again, they may go that 1-2 punch. We'll just wait and see. But obviously, Jordan Sweet, Sam Naismith, I would still bring in Jordan Sweet if you already have Sam Naismith and use him as your R2 and restructure your midfield or your forward line or your defense around that set of moves.
Awesome, mate. That was a fantastic discussion. I think that's probably the biggest discussion and probably the biggest talking point this week, mate, is what do we do with this ruck setup? Just because Jordan Sweet has announced himself, in my humble opinion, as an absolute must-have. All right, back to the stock market slide. And the other blokes we quickly need to touch on are Toby Conway, still available at 180k. He's a very easy pass for me, particularly given the fact we have Jordan Sweet here. And the other two blokes are Lloyd Meek and Tristan Sherry. Ideally, you look to hold both. Sherry was a great starting pick this year if you decided to go there. And Meek has been a really successful pick in the short term. You could look to move him on now if you're really keen on the Sweet R2 move. But if you're a Meek owner, I'd simply try to get Jordan Sweet at R3 and continue to ride with the pick. He's also got a nice run coming up. And if you look at Tristan Sherry's 3-round average, it's the next best after Max Gawn. So it almost seems silly to trade him. In summary, whatever you do or whatever you want to do, make sure that you trade in Jordan Sweet, R2, R3, because in my humble opinion, he is the definition of a non-negotiable. Onto the forwards, 500k plus, and I wish I could give you a lot more detail on this one, but we've got to get through it very quickly. Jake Waterman, top 10 average at the moment. You can see the new key symbol there, representing obviously he's a key forward, but I still think he's extremely trappish at this price. But talk about in career best form. Look at that 3-rounder, 133, sitting head and shoulders above the rest, even 5 points more than Isaac Heaney. And keep in mind, that is a 3-round average, not just a one-off. So well done, Jakey boy, but coming nowhere near my side. Jezza Cameron, another key pod there. 3-rounder of 108, so he's finally hitting form at the moment. Remember at the start of, was it last year? He was in Brownlow form, so we know that he can really hit the roof with that ceiling, Jezza, but hasn't been a fantastic year to date. But hovering around, improving as we go along. Flanders is an absolute must-have by now. Get him in your side. He, along with Isaac Heaney, down at the bottom, are the absolute non-negotiables and the clear F1 and F2 this year. And then you've got Charlie Curnow, 525,300. Another key forward that's a bit of a pod pick, but does have a bit of a better run coming up. So I'd probably wait to look at him after the bye. Dogged Jackson, you've committed to now. If you've held him, you're not going to sell him now. Oh, it's tough looking at his price plummet. He was around the 600k mark, but we knew this was going to happen if we decided to hold. We knew that his cash gen would go right out the window, but we would be holding him for different reasons. Obviously, that ruck cover is super important, and let's be honest, when we look at some of the other names on this list, they don't fill you with great confidence, do they? Dane Zorko doesn't fill us with great confidence all of a sudden, and what's happened with this man? Well, it's all about the role. Con McKenna is back on the side. Zach Bailey is unfortunately injured at the moment. So it just makes sense from a Brisbane point of view. And I would love to see Zorko down back, don't get me wrong. But from a Brisbane's point of view, you've got McKenna there. That's his role. Zorko's played a lot of midfield time before. Also that half forward role where he's really damaging, kicking inside 50. So yeah, I'd probably see that continuing until at least Bailey gets back, which is super frustrating. Split is just all over the shop. Defence, midfield, forward. So, yeah, the age, potential durability concerns, just can't go there anymore. Shea, 561,600, 125 for break even. Well, what we saw last week was closer to a floor type game. So, we've seen the good and the great with Bolton this year, but I'll guarantee you we're also going to see the ugly. So there is no chance in the world I'm paying over 560k for Shea Bolton. I will simply wait until he comes under 500 again, and that will definitely be at some point during the year. And Isaac is an absolute must-have, non-negotiable. Look, he is coming down in price, but that 3-round average is still 128. We're waiting for him to have an absolute stinker. He's gone under 100, but certainly wasn't a stinker. So Isaac Heaney, thank you very much for everything you've done for me, my man. I hope you take out Charlie this year. Onto the forwards, 250 to 500k, and I tell you what, 90+% of the Supercoach world was absolutely spewing when Harley Reid was managed last week. Many of us are now viewing him as a potential forward keeper with the lack of decent options available to us this year. We all know what he did the week before, absolutely tore the game apart, and did show the whole AFL world why he was the clear consensus #1 pick in 2023. It's really nice to have him back on our fields this week. Watch him run around and dominate. So, is he a keeper in your eyes? Let us know in the comments section. Be interested to see how the community feels about that. I've been stoked with Darcy Wilson's performances in the last 2 weeks. 69 and 88. His 2 best scores of the season. He's made over 70k in the last 2 weeks. Coming up against North Melbourne and Hawthorn the next fortnight. Seems to be a decent fixture. Break even of 0. Yeah, nice. He'll be close to 320k if he scores a couple of 60s in rounds 8 and 9. An absolute hold, and one that you could potentially have on field. Dylan Moore is an interesting selection, to be honest, and one that I find it hard to get a read on. We've seen some great scores, some not so great scores from Dill. 104, 116, and a 136 last week. That gives you confidence to say, yeah, it could certainly be a forward keeper, but if I read out his 3 lowest scores of 44, 59, and 56, then it would almost make you want to spew up. And that's another reason why I'm finding it so hard to read this pick. Given his low floor, he's one that I'd pass on for now, but without doubt has the potential to be a top 6 to 8 forward in 2024. Nat Fyfe, talk about potential keepers. Smashed it out of the park last week. What a man he is. Caught the attention of the whole comp again. I've got the keeper question mark symbol there, just like Reid, as I mentioned before. Just lack of decent options available. Fife could be one that we could actually keep on to. He'll probably get arrested at some stage, you'd think, and I normally wouldn't advocate him as a trade-in option due to red flags with his body holding up, but he's still a beast, a starting inside mid, and as I just mentioned, in super form. Last week, 37 touches. Most were handballs, but half were contested. Impacted the scoreboard, 7 clearances, had a few tackles, went at 73% efficiency. So if you believe in his body, he's got every chance to be a top 6 forward this year. There's still a chance that Bevo destroys Darcy, but he's a hold for at least another week for mine. Most of his scores have been decent and fieldable, and I think he's okay to have at F6 for now. So depending on how he goes, maybe leaving my side next week. And I think the last 4 players on the slide here are all in a pretty similar position. You can see the symbol there, either watch or chop. But look, you could, either hold shop for another week. They're all around the same price. So Caleb Windsor, he looks like a future player for the D's, but not really a viable option anymore on field. In saying that, had a pretty decent score last week. Tommy Berry, he's been a roller coaster type rookie selection. It seems like he gives you a really decent type score, but unfortunately follows it up with a stinker or 2. All he needs to do is just pull together 2 or 3 even better consecutive scores above, say, the 80 plus range. Then he can make a really solid chunk of coin. But given the fact he's at almost 300k, he's definitely been a successful pick. Cobra Kai, been enjoying full games, and that makes a difference, doesn't it, for a young player? But look, I'll be avoiding him, even though he has been avoiding the sub-vest, a talented player, but yeah, not much more coin to make there. Aaron Cadman, great starting pick, but he's done most of his good work now, particularly early on the season with that nice fixture. I'll personally be saying goodbye to him this week, upgrading him to a midfield premium by DPP. Look, it's been fun tracking his season, seeing him continue to grow his game, develop his physical strength and confidence. And look, if you want to hold for the season as reliable job security cover, I suppose you could. He should give you, those 50 to 60 type scores with a possible 80 plus here and there. But I'm not a fan of that idea and would recommend to trade him out whenever you are ready. Now, Jai Caldwell, he's had a really solid last month. Scores a 99, 99, 83, 129 and 100. I said a month, that's 5 weeks. But anyway, that sees him as a realistic forward option for us this year. Coming up against West Coast this week, then facing North and Richmond in rounds 10 and 11. That's a really nice fixture. He's been getting regular CBAs, but on the weekend he lost basically all of them to Jake Stringer. I don't think that this will necessarily be a trend, but I'd like to see that midfield mix just for another week. The Bombers do have a few midfielders to come back, which may be of slight concern, but definitely one to put on your watch list though. Charlie Comben, I am an owner, and I'm a bit of a frustrated owner. Look, don't get me wrong, I wasn't expecting 130s each week, but definitely 75, pushing an 80. Just haven't seen it. I think he's still been playing well. Good thing is, I think Clarko's ditched that forward experiment and will keep him back. So I'm going to hold for now. I just think he's got one more spike score in him. But again, if he doesn't do too much this week, I think I'll just look to move him on the week after. I really rate Buku Karmas as a player. Done a nice defensive job for the Dogs this year. Super athletic, takes nice intercept marks. Been a bit of a pod rookie for some. Gained defensive DPP status, which is handy for trades and movement. Also allows you to get in either a defender or a forward. One you could hold for another week with the break even of 58, but also one that's fine to cull and thank him for his services. Made 150k, so nice work from Buku. Ollie Dempsey. Many people thought there was actually a chance that he would start as a sub last week, but that didn't really come to fruition. Dominated the first quarter score-wise, but didn't really give much of a bark after that. If you started him, he's certainly done his job, but if you trade him in after 1 or 2 price rises, I'm guessing you wouldn't be overly pleased with the end result. A really talented player, and I still see him as a half-fieldable option, but I think the time to go is now, and I'd be moving him on myself. Jack McRae, another really interesting selection. As I said a couple of weeks prior, former Supercoach royalty, but he's really just not doing enough at this stage for me to pay up for him. Look, what's the difference in average going to be between a McRae and, say, Sam Darcy, who I've already got there? I just don't know whether or not I'm willing to pay up for Jack. Now, when we say pay up, we're not talking 650k like we are with our Rouse and Zeret type picks, but there's something that still worries me. You can see the symbol there along with Bevo. That's never great. So look, I'm going to give it another week, wait till Lib is in, see what happens with Richards, etc., and then make an assessment after that. But I'm certainly not rushing to get a forward in to my team anyway, but that's more personal circumstances. Harry, I'll just be waiting probably around the bye, or after the bye. You can see the key symbol there because he is a key forward. I'm never a big fan of key forwards, but when we are getting later on the season, when we've got these dearth of options, and hey, if you could even have that luxury of getting a key forward as that swing type option or loop type option at your F7, that would be a real luxury. So definitely we'll be looking into that, but probably not at the moment. Rankin as well. So look, if he plays that midfield role, he could be super relevant and up there in the top 6. I can see this happening. He's got the talent to do it, but I just don't know. He's getting close to 500k now. That 3-rounder is the top of this whole list, along with Caldwell there with a 104. So certainly the man in form, if you're looking at the names here. Oh, look, it's up to you. I've got the top 10 there because I think he does finish top 10 as well as the pod. But do you really want to be spending your money here now? Probably not. And it's Liam Baker as well. That's the issue. There's so many blokes that you think could work out, but you're still not sure. I've got Bob the Builder there because I think Liam Baker is the ultimate Mr. Fix-It. Defensive forward, playing through the midfield at the moment, but how long will he be doing that for? Who knows with Baker? I'm just not too sure. When he's playing a friendly role, yeah, a fantastic selection, either as a defender or a forward. Probably more a forward, given the fact that we've got lots of really nice defensive options this year. But I just don't know what the time frame's going to be on particular roles for Liam. And if someone goes down during a game, for example, he's the sort of man that could just fill a role. So probably not from me. Taylor Adams had a really nice first game, high on people's radar. Hasn't really set the world on fire after that. So 3-rounder of 84. The break-even is actually in red, so no need to go there. Sanders has been confirmed not playing again this week, I'm pretty sure. Could be wrong, but I've heard it from a few people. What are you doing, Bevo? Get stuffed, mate. Get stuffed. Oh, Fisher, he's lost his role, it seems, to McKercher. Bad luck, son. Started as a sub last week and is an absolute sell for me. And Tommy Powell. Oh, this is a tough one. I am pulling my hair out with this. Absolutely pulling my hair out. All right, so his CBA rate for the year, 76%, 93, 89, 77, 79, 77, bang, down to 14. What on earth happened? Now, the great Jaden Popowski put out a tweet saying that Powell was actually ushering other blokes into the CBA when he had the opportunity to jump in there himself. What on earth is happening here? Now, we're also talking on the Swordplay potty about this, and Janice seemed to think that it may have been a directive from someone. Well, you'd assume the coach. My question then was, why is he being given that directive? Is it purely experimental? Let's see how the Curtis and these type of blokes fit in there. They want Shees to start spending a little bit more time than there. What's the reason? I'm just not quite sure. And that's the big question mark for me. Now, I'm super worried that if I don't trade this week and we see similar scenes to what happened the previous round, then I've lost out that money. You know, he hasn't turned out to be a keeper, and potentially I've only made around 60, 70k on the pick. That's probably not enough for me. So, it's almost now or never. And it's like McKercher. Like, McKercher went back to that role. I would hate for this to be another McKercher situation because there's not too many blokes that have that inside mid role and that high CBA rate that we can actually select as a forward. And he's still 415k. I am much lower on him as a keeper now. I was at the point where, I won't say I'd locked him in, but I was thinking keeper more than not keeper, put it that way. So I'm still undecided whether or not I'm going to be keeping Tom Powell. Now, I have heard a little bit of news that Simpkins a little bit sore and possibly LDU. If that's the case, then, well, surely he's got to get back in there. The main man I think that's affected Powell seems to be Will Phillips. So when I'm looking at the team sheets, that's the first name I'm going to be looking for. Don't worry about Tom Powell's name there. I'm going to be looking for Will Phillips' name. And if he is there, then, yeah, there's a higher chance than not that I'll be trading out Tommy. The scores themselves haven't been fantastic. They haven't been disastrous, really, apart from last week. Some 90s in there, but really only the 100 plus. That's got to be concerning, particularly when we're talking keeper material. You look at Fife even, he's gone that really nice 100, got some high 90s in there as well, along with another 100. So, look, still undecided on him. If you decide to trade him, I can absolutely see why. If you hold on to him, I can see why. But if we get it wrong this week and either trade early and he comes back good, we're going to be really annoyed with ourselves. And if we don't trade and he continues to lower that CBA rate, we'll be asking ourselves, why didn't we trade him out? The writing was on the wall. So whatever you decide to do with Tommy Powell, all the best of luck. And we'll finish off with the forwards under 250k. Thanks, as always, for sticking with me. We'll quickly skip Garcia. Lafau, 236,900. What a pick he's been. After his first few games, 20, 30 type scores, I thought, absolutely no way. Not even at rookie bargain basement price. But then had a real spike game. Continued to score well the game after that. So he still has a negative break even of 75 and a 3-round average of 73. If he scores 57 this week, he'll be going up around 42,000. So well done if you selected him. But as you can see from the notes section, the ship has certainly sailed. And Hugo Garcia, I think the ship sailed with him as well. The time to buy was obviously last week, but a little bit disappointed with his performance. Low TOG, not as many CBAs as I was expecting, and did field him over Darcy Wilson. But I think that this should still be a pretty solid selection. I hope that he gets named again this week, playing better football than people like Zach Jones. So hope that Ross continues to show the faith with Hugo. A tackling machine, always gives his all. Hopefully he continues to make cash for us. Cooper Simpson, he's a rule breaker given the fact he's only played the one game now. I'm certainly not saying to trade him in this week. We'll just keep him on our watch list because I thought he looked really good. Started as a sub and impressed when he came on. A zippy type player who many of us thought could potentially debut in round one. I know many of us had him on our benches in the pre-season. So Cooper Simpson, definitely one to keep a watch on. You got Blake Drury, look biggie. I think the ship's certainly sailed on them already. If you're keen on these blokes, you should have gone last week. Better options on the bubble. And seems like we may have a couple on the horizon as well. If you're an owner though, it's an obvious hold. Bailey Laurie also amazingly has a break even in the red at 33 with a lowly 3-round average of 20, so a pretty easy bubble pass for me at this stage. An even easier pass is Mr. Tyler Sellers. Now get this, 102,400, a 3-round average of 5, and a break even very much in the reds with 50. Now, luckily for Tyler, to save a little bit of embarrassment from the Supercoach community, his price can't actually go any lower, and that's a fact. So a player's price can't go below the bargain basement rookie price of just over 102k. And Charlie Lazaro, only the 42 points on the weekend, rotating at half forward, shocking efficiency, only in the 50s. And when you only touch a ball 11 times, this is an absolute score killer. He did kick a goal, which is lucky, because if not, this would have been a really bad score. With a break even now in the red with 62, I think it's okay to move Charlie on. But again, if he does get a full game, he's got the potential to hit that. We're just not sure. We know that North may be hit with a couple of midfield injuries at least. So there could be the opportunity for Charlie to see an increase in CBAs for this week anyway. So definitely one to consider holding. But you'd be frustrated if he was even subbed off, even if he didn't start as a sub. So yeah, it's really up to you what you want to do with Charlie Lazaro. And we'll go to the top with Riley Garcia. So if you look at all the names on this list, he's the easy one, isn't he, that we bring in this week. Now, the only issue that I have is if you're a fan of Darcy Jones, and we don't even know if he's going to be selected this week, But let's just say there's Darcy Jones from the Giants. Can he afford to trade 2 forwards in consecutive weeks? What can you do? I'm really not sure. Now, this is a mistake from me. I've got Garcia as a mid-forward. Please, please, please keep in mind he's not a mid-forward. He is a forward only, which is why I just brought up that point with Jones as well. But look, with Garcia, you can see the 3-round average, 73. That's fantastic. A negative break-even of 74. Again, that's fine. Even only going 45, under 50, he still makes 55k. So out of the list here, I think that he is the best buy. Is he the best rookie this week overall? Look, I'm not too sure. You could go your Rodgers. I think with Garcia, he's lucky in the fact that Waitman is out for an extended period. But in saying that, Bevo did mention last week that if there wasn't a late change, he would have actually started as the sub. So as soon as you hear Bevo say something like that, you're just so worried, aren't you? But look, 82 in his first week, 17 touches, 1 mark, 6 tackles, and then last week 64, 4 kicks and the 12 handballs. So pretty consistent there with his disposal rate, 17 and then 16. Only the 2 tackles last week against Freo, so you would like to see him up that again and try to get that closer anyway to the 6 that he laid against St Kilda. But I think he's a fine trading option. You hope that his job security looks okay, but again, keep in mind who he's coached by. I wouldn't be surprised to see Bevo do anything, because with Bevo, anything's possible. So that's it for now, guys. Apologies again about the really late upload. Fingers crossed it will be out in time before tonight's game. Apologies as well about the audio quality. I know it was a little bit up and down. I was having so many problems with my mic. I didn't have my software and all that sort of business. So it's probably a little bit all over the shop. This is a little bit scrappy, the whole production this week, which I'm not proud of, but I just tried my best to get this out there in time. So thanks as always for all your support, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Apologies again as well. I was meant to give some shout outs to some absolute legends that gifted some memberships and gave me some donations on my live the other week, but everything's just been all over the shop. So I promise I will do that in my round review this week, and hopefully it will be a positive round review and we will have a half decent score to talk about. So much peace, much love, guys. All the best luck, and I'll see you soon in the next one. Cheers, bye.